It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. God, it's Feedback Friday. Now, I'm recording this Feedback Friday on Wednesday because my Thursday is a shit show this week, busy. So I'm doing this on Wednesday, which means there isn't a ton, there wasn't a ton of time to get comments on the diss track Healthy Anger Wellness Wednesday video. And for Monday's video, I got a lot of comments saying that, you know, for the people that actually watched the video, said that was really helpful. It was nice to hear how to do things right, and the affirmation that even if you get a bad reaction, this is correct, you know. So I will be doing more content of that sort in future, and I've been getting more positive comments on the Has Been Hotel song, so Song and I are working on another one. And the thing I liked about the comments I got on that, they're like, I like that you just went for it. And it's like, yeah, that is me. Oh, and Zelda just went for it. Hi, Zelda. So we're gonna be spending this video responding to Team Bear wiping the floor with Team Man this week again. My God, guys. Like, we'll get to that. If you like this content, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Team Bear won mostly because Team Man just kept shitting the bed. I took like 6 demerit points from Team Man, my own team, because Team Man did not listen to me off the top of the video, asking to avoid ad hominems, calling Team Bear weak and incompetent is an ad hominem. I asked you not to do that. You didn't. This makes no sense. This was the same guy, however, who bragged that his wife was a cougar. Apparently, he doesn't know what the term cougar means, because a cougar is a woman basically shamelessly hitting on younger men at bars. So that didn't work out the way I think that guy intended it to. But because, and that was basically it. It was, we'll get into some of the less obviously stupid comments. The one guy was responsible for 4 out of the 6 Team Man demerits. And this is so interesting, right? Because this is a whole thing about a relative handful of men ruining it for all other guys, right? And it's playing out in the comment section. It's something else. Cause this guy wrote, sets up, because Eileen's been joking about setting up a table for Team Bear with pamphlets. So this guy retorts, sets up a Team Man table offering an open bar with expert bartenders, barbecue meats on the grill from expert cooks, and a rack with sign-up sheets for whitewater rafting, a high-end gun range, a tank driving ranch, and every other masculine activity available. I'm sorry, sir. I think the person best with both firearms and possibly tanks in this community is Aquila. You're an asshole for that comment. Not only did you stereotype men and suggest that men who aren't interested in these things, i.e. the bulk of this fucking community, are less masculine, but ironically, I knew a guy who tried to do that for his bachelor party in Vegas, and none of the other guys wanted to go because none of them were into it, and it was fucking expensive. And so, and he did it again at another comment. This was the weak and incompetent comment. Take solace in the concept that Team Bear is admitting they are weak and incompetent. Embrace the suck. Embrace the fearsome power of the common man. Join Team Man. Drink good booze, eat good food, and do fun stuff. Laugh at the memes. Maintain a sense of humor through this noise. I don't think the guy who chose to comment in this way on the video where we got into why thinking about Disney film characters in sexual terms just goes horribly wrong instantly. He's not the guy to go to for a sense of humor. And because this one guy almost single-handedly completely shit the bed for Teen Man, but there were others. I will get to other comments. But because of this, we have the pamphlet for Team Bear, the cover, designed by the wonderful Eileen. Here it is. Team Bear, how to listen to empathize instead of listening to argue. And Eileen actually did a glorious two women talking logo for this pamphlet. So we're going to be using that going forward because that is a work of art. But yeah, how to listen to empathize instead of listening to argue is the core of this exercise. This is what this whole thing is about. I keep hearing, what do you want us to do? What more do you want us to do? We already know women are afraid. We already take steps to avoid it. And this is one thing I admit I don't get. Nobody wants anyone to do anything but understand. And that's why Team Man keeps losing. Because you don't have to do anything but just listen. It's not your turn right now. It is. It's not even my turn, right? Because I chose Team Man. Ironically, I have started reading A Court of Thorn and Roses to understand song better. And the first pages of the book are a woman hunter named Feyre in the woods, contemplating whether she'd rather run into a wolf or a ferryman. And she chooses the wolf. She'd rather run into the wolf because the ferryman is more dangerous. So, and this was written years before this whole thing kicked off. So, because, I mean, this book is the center of girl world right now, which is part of the reason I want to read it. And so the fact that like, and I'm sitting here, screaming at the thing, almost throwing the book across the room because this, living off the land, poor family, there's a line in there, she was sipping hot water because they were too poor to buy tea. Tea can be foraged from wildflowers and herbs and roots. Dandelions are plentiful. There's no such thing as being too poor for tea. There isn't. No. Like, and this is the thing. Yes, there is I immediately switched to my buddy's book that he's got me beta reading. And the characters take an hour to make a fire. And it's like, yes. Somebody who knows what they're talking about. But that's the thing. This is the thing I keep stressing. You don't need to have a perfect argument to have valid feelings. But being an asshole, not caring about other people's feelings means people are less likely to care about yours. And I want to carefully look at a comment that I think was made in good faith. And I think that wasn't, this wasn't somebody trying to be a dick, which is why I'm paying them some positive attention to actually engage with their comment instead of just going, you were an asshole there, dude. I don't think this person's an asshole. But I do want to show the issue here because this is the core of it, that the men who are responding expect their viewpoint to be treated as inherently valid while giving notes to the women who choose the bear about how to improve a metaphor. And I want to get into why it's missing the point. So here we go. I think the main reason so many men are upset about the man versus bear discourse is because women are, bracket, consciously or not, end bracket, comparing the random average man to a dangerous predator, bracket, bear, which is the way the question is phrased in the TikTok videos, which, as an aside, the TikTok videos were made by a man. This is a point that keeps getting missed, but the commenter didn't say that. I did. Back to the comment. Women who pick the bear over the man will tell men it's not literal and it's not about the bear. If that's the case, why use the analogy in the first place? Because it's an analogy. Moving on. To men, all we see is that we, as half the world's population, are being compared to a dangerous animal that could rip a person to shreds. Statistically, less than 1% of men have committed a violent crime. In the UK, it's 0.25% of men. Men don't want to invalidate women's feelings, but at the same time, facts also matter. Invoking Ned Stark, everything before the but is a lie. As a man, of course, understand why a woman... As a man, I, of course, understand why a woman would feel afraid or cautious alone with a man she doesn't know, especially if it's dark outside. Okay, I don't quite understand that, but moving on. I think some women assume men don't care or don't understand that women often fear for their safety, when I think most men probably understand that and want women to be safe. Commenter, respectfully, talk to the guy who was calling women, weak and incompetent. That guy is not understanding women's feelings. He's the guy, my cougar wife says this is ridiculous because she's from Thailand and bears were there. But that's why I'm focusing on this guy respectfully and not that dude. Final comment. I think if the hypothetical was phrased differently and all men weren't compared to a dangerous predator, most men would respond far more positively. One, that is not what the analogy does. It doesn't. It's not comparing all men. It's comparing men the woman doesn't know to a dangerous predator, a strange man. So no, not all men. You're wrong, right? I'll invoke your men don't want to invalidate women's feelings, but at the same time, facts also matter. I don't want to dismiss your entire argument, but facts do matter. You see how the I don't want to dismiss your entire argument doesn't matter much? Because the but is, well, you're just wrong. You strawmanned the phrasing of the analogy. Also, analogies are not literal. And yes, some analogies do more harm than good. But in this case, the whole point is not for people to understand that there's any problem. For people to understand the depth of the problem. How frightened some women are. And this whole idea of I think if the hypothetical was phrased differently and all men weren't compared to a dangerous predator, most men would respond far more positively. One person responded, "You're deeply naive if you think a different phrasing wouldn't still elicit some jump up and screech," which I think the fact that the original commenter strawmanned the original hypothetical trolley problem, it proves the point. The thing I find interesting and worth examining here, as someone who, does not share this viewpoint, is that the assumptions people jump to, the heuristics people use to navigate the world are significant. And the fact that, it is a trolley problem that is deliberately vague in the way of, would you save a trolley is out of control and all you can do is shift the track. There are 6 people tied to one side of the track. There is 1 person tied to the other side of the track. Who do you save? Most people, when it's strangers, say, well, the 6 people. You save the 6. So then the person asking the question go, well, what if the one was your mother? What if the one was the president? What if the one was the Pope? I think a lot of people would run over the Pope. But that's the thing, right? People are like, oh, that's mean. That's disrespectful to religion. Yeah, because of the unique religious trauma that a lot of Catholics and ex-Catholics experience. And I don't judge. And I think this really is how we can all benefit from this. Listening to empathize instead of listening to argue. And this is, and I'm going to do a longer video on this. The entire concept of cognitive behavioral therapy may have been a net negative to society because it was done badly or incomplete. The idea that, oh no, rational, stop the thought, step back and look at your emotions. Like, that's great in theory. If you've got minor issues, we've found that approach is really shitty for trauma and just results in self-gaslighting, self-invalidation, which is the topic of this week's It's Not Therapy. And I do notice how many men are leaping to, again, argue only one side of this, not identifying what points. I find that the Team Bear comments seize on certain points, talk about certain points, and had a sense of humor about the thing about Disney sex. The Discord was extremely rowdy about that. It was very funny having that conversation and keeping it safe for work. Sebastian the Crab screen caps where "Darling, it's better down where it's wetter, take it from me" featured prominently. Well played, Team Bear. But the reaction from Team Man was just, you're comparing us to dangerous animals. You're comparing us to violent animals. You're comparing us to animals. And then one guy, and I'm not giving this this comment much time because I do think it was a troll, because it's, sorry if this comes off as misogynistic, but, and said, where is it? After a point, it descended into, for lack of a better descriptor, hens clucking at each other, in agreement with the occasional suggestion that men need to do better and men need to understand. So one guy, that I took no points off of this because I thought it was a troll. Cause it, not to be misogynist, but that's not even fair to blame that on Team Man. But this, so you're comparing us to animals, and then a dude, oh, clucking hens, which that's the thing. Men are not socialized to be as protect against danger as women are. Women are not socialized, socially programmed to pretend to be okay with these insults. And I do think that a lot of the social brutality, the verbal abuse that men launch at each other does come out at women. I'm not saying this is intentional. I'm saying that it's this combination of women are supposed to be the nurturers, women are supposed to soothe men, men put a lot into that primary heterosexual romantic relationship. Because there's this, and so all the repressed pain, all the repressed misery and shame and guilt comes out on the women in their lives and women in general. to the point that the guy who, all the driving tanks and my wife's a cougar, he said in that same comment, I asked my wife about the man versus bear question, and she looked at me like an idiot, like I was an idiot. My first thought was, I suspect that's not a rare occurrence. But, that was me being unkind. And see, I recognize that's me being snarky and unkind. Men really don't realize how often women sit and shut up because if we voice a valid concern, people are going to find the one thing wrong with it and use that to dismiss the 90% that's valid. And so the fact that men are doing that here, that's what's wrong with that, I think well-meaning comment about, well, maybe if the analogy was phrased better, that's not listening to empathize. That's not even listening to understand. That's listening to criticize and dismiss. The point of the analogy, the power in it, is that on the surface, it is absurd. Granted, there's been all this stuff about, bears are docile. If you leave them alone, they won't leave you alone. I mean, obviously, right, there's a lot of features. And this is the fascinating psychological thing for me, going back to the trolley problem thing. Is it a hungry bear? Is it a diseased bear? How much space do you have between you and the bear? Right? Similarly, what are the characteristics of the man? We're not privy to any of those. The reason the analogy is powerful is that we are dealing with the archetype of the bear, which are sort of forest loners, and the archetype of a man, which is, look at what that guy said were masculine activities. This is why if this guy would just stop running his keyboard and listen, gun range, tanks, meat, right? And booze. So things that lower your inhibitions and encourage violence. That's masculine activities. This is the problem. The problem is not men. The problem is the masculine ideal that society puts forward. Associated with, why is meat manly? Because it's predatory, right? You killed that animal. Because otherwise, meat's okay in moderation. But this meat, man. It's not good for your colons, guys. Like, get some salad in there, some whole grains, maybe a little quinoa. Like, and yeah, I have a bit of meat envy with this stuff because I'm not a vegetarian by choice. I'm a vegetarian because my appendix blew up when I was 16 and it destroyed large portions of my intestinal tract. So I can't digest meat. I can't even digest more complex dairy foods. It's got to be refined, a little bit of cheese. It's got to have all that difficult to break down stuff already kind of partially broken down. It sucks. But this carnivore, guns, tanks, like, what is this, a Cranberry song? With the tanks and their bombs. Sorry, somebody butchered that on a show recently, so it's been stuck in my head. But it's like, what are you doing? You're proving the point. You're proving the fact that the masculine ideal, what we expect from men, is fucked. Right? It's not intellectual beings. No, it wasn't. Come to Team Man. We have books and stimulating conversation. And, what we tried to do here, which is a point, counterpoint, and these dudes completely missed the point because they were too busy going, man, hitman, caveman. This is the whole problem. This is the whole thing. It is not comparing all men to a wild animal. It is comparing the archetypical man or prototypical man, ideal man, to a wild animal and deciding who is more dangerous. And we live in a world where men are apex predators is commonly repeated, right? The whole reason we talk about this all the time on Two Women Talking, because, and this is why I don't understand why people have listened to the show at all, went so spiraling out of control on this one, because we talk all the time. The reason Thor is so dreamy is not because he hits things with a hammer. It's the sensitivity, those gentle moments with Jane. He's not, that takes him away from that, man takes a gun, man goes to war, man can kill and man can drink and man can take a whore. That's from the song Real Man. It takes it away from that. The ideal that, or the archetype that, a lot of us don't like. And takes it away from a guy who is defined by his love for a woman. And yeah, he can go out and bonk heads and be an idiot. But he knows when to turn it off. And we'll get to some of this in the finale. And this was all pre-recorded, by the way. So, but what more can you do? You gotta show you can turn off the urge to attack. You have to turn off the need to argue, the need to criticize, the need to say, this is what you can do better. Because here's why, okay? And it's not just so girls will like you. It's not that. There's actually a rhetorical point. If you start off picking, well, maybe if you voice this better, and let's face it, this is gaslighting that people have gotten, because we said in part 1, there's no wrong answer, but well, maybe if the analogy was better. No, the analogy is good because it's archetype versus archetype. That's the whole point. But if you're saying maybe if the hypothetical was phrased differently and you get the hypothetical wrong, someone pointing that out, that one little detail invalidates your entire argument. Now, if you're giving benefit of the doubt and you're not expecting perfection, if you're not saying, well, when your argument is to my standards, when you meet my standards where I begin to give a shit, well, then I'll give you a hearing. You make one mistake, especially a mistake that big, and you render your entire argument invalid. Not only because you got the central premise wrong, but also you're a hypocrite if you want to be heard after that. You're not playing by your own rules. If you go, look, like I did, I understand why men are upset. Quite frankly, I trust the men who are upset more than the ones who aren't. I do see where women are coming from in that the bear won't treat them with derision. They won't call them weak and incompetent. They won't be, I am man, I want tank, I want gun, I want meat, right? Bears are foragers. You don't take that crap. You don't take the Gaston from Beauty and the Beast routine from a bear. And you're not expected to take it from a bear either. And a lot of these comments do come from a place, and I don't think they realize this, but it does come from a place where the expectation is that we're just expected to take this shit. And no, this is my channel. It's like the minute we went to women, the archetype of women, to continue the whole why this analogy is apt. The minute we went women, the minute we went to women talking, y'all forgot who the fuck I am. And what a fucking hard ass I am. And the fact that you do not talk to me like just some woman with no brain that you are putting down and improving. Fuck no. I am the apex predator in this community. Fuck y'all. I am the bear. And that's pause for thought, right? Because if we remove all the individuated characteristics out of men, women see apex predator. And we remove all the individuated characteristics from women, and we get weak, incompetent, and two hens clucking. Everybody's fucking losing, aren't they? I mean, just this week alone, some football dude invoked Taylor Swift as my teammate's girlfriend. Taylor Swift. And then went on to say, well, women just really want to be homemakers. Women live in this world. And again, too many men, and it is a minority, it's just a very loud minority, but too many men freak out over Star Wars Outlaws and She-Hulk and more Star Wars and He-Man and more Star Wars and more Star Wars and more Star Wars. Women get one, and it's irrational, illogical, weak, incompetent. Man make gun, man drive tank, man eat meat. You're contributing to the fucking problem. What people miss is that women don't think the bear is safe. I'm team man, remember. Women don't think the bear is safe. It's a question of getting torn apart or getting torn apart and demeaned and dismissed and put down and diminished. And part of the whole goal here, part of the whole making that ask off the top, just avoid the ad hominems, was about that. And y'all missed it. Y'all meaning the team man people I took points from. And I do think that there is a certain amount of, I got to be careful with these words because they mean different things in different pockets, right? But ego in the construct of who you are, the constructed reality, I do think there's a lot of ego bruising in this thing. Because I get that guys don't like the idea that women think they're dangerous. Because it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, they're picked on for not being ideally masculine, and now they're lumped in as well. That's the problem with the archetypes, the ideals of masculinity that we're dealing with. What do? We change that. What do? We stop associating masculinity with carnivorous eating habits, guns, and fucking tanks. Because Aquila will smoke you. Okay, don't try shit with her. That was a joke. I love Aquila. I just like name dropping her. But stop making masculinity synonymous with killing shit. And we won't have this man versus bear problem. Make sense?
There, I smiled. It's okay now, right? I smiled. I'm speaking nicely. I'm in Princess Sparkle Muffin voice, you know?
All right, puppets. Carry on. I'm losing it. Just help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who uses it but can't afford it. A lot of people could use it based on this discussion. That is not a pejorative. Please, please, please reach out and talk to somebody if you're having these deep feelings. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching. And instead of the Feedback Friday, landing on the Team Bear Flyer. Shoutouts to Eileen again. Listen to empathize instead of listening to argue, and have a great weekend.